Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to Nine Nar Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book. Counseling the Culturally Diverse, Theory and Practice by Derald Wing Su is a foundational text for understanding how culture, identity, and social power shape the counseling relationship. Widely used in counselor education and clinical training, the book connects theory with real-world practice by showing how multicultural awareness is not an optional specialty, but a core clinical competency. Su frames counseling as an interpersonal and systemic process in which race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, disability, religion, class, and immigration histories influence both client concerns and therapist perceptions. The book is known for clarifying key terms, mapping common barriers to effective cross-cultural work, and translating multicultural and social justice perspectives into actionable clinical behaviors. It also addresses how bias and microaggressions can appear in therapy, supervision, and agencies, and how clinicians can respond ethically. For students, it offers a structured way to build competence. For experienced practitioners, it provides a lens to reassess assumptions and strengthen outcomes with diverse clients. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, multicultural competence as a core clinical framework. A central contribution of the book is the way it organizes multicultural counseling competence into practical dimensions that clinicians can continually develop. Rather than treating culture as a list of facts about groups, the framework emphasizes how counselors build awareness of their own worldview, expand knowledge of clients' lived contexts, and translate both into concrete skills. This approach helps readers move beyond good intentions toward accountable practice. The book highlights that competence is not static. It evolves through training, self-reflection, feedback, and willingness to examine blind spots. It also underscores that counseling is shaped by culture on both sides of the relationship, meaning the therapist is never culturally neutral. Readers are guided to consider how communication styles, help-seeking attitudes, family roles, and experiences of discrimination can affect assessment, rapport, and treatment planning. Another important idea is that multicultural competence includes understanding societal power and historical forces, not only individual differences. When counselors learn to connect personal distress with environmental stressors, they can avoid pathologizing clients and can craft interventions that feel more respectful and effective. This topic sets the groundwork for the rest of the book by defining what culturally responsive counseling looks like in everyday clinical decisions. Secondly, worldview, identity, and the counseling relationship. The book places strong emphasis on worldview differences and identity development as factors that shape how clients interpret problems and what they expect from counseling. It encourages counselors to explore how cultural identities are formed through family, community, language, spirituality, migration, and experiences of inclusion or exclusion. This broad lens helps clinicians understand why two clients with similar symptoms may require different approaches based on meaning, values, and context. The discussion of identity is often tied to the ways people navigate multiple cultural memberships and the stress that can arise when identities conflict or are marginalized. The book also addresses how counselor identity interacts with client identity, influencing trust, disclosure, authority dynamics, and perceived safety. Readers learn to watch for misunderstandings rooted in differences in emotional expression, communication norms, time orientation, and views of individualism versus collectivism. Importantly, the focus is not on stereotyping, but on using cultural hypotheses carefully and checking them collaboratively with clients. This topic equips clinicians to build stronger alliances by demonstrating cultural humility, asking better questions, and adapting therapeutic stance. It also reinforces that culturally responsive work involves understanding both personal narratives and the broader social stories that shape them. Thirdly, recognizing and repairing microaggressions in therapy. A major practical theme is how subtle bias can enter counseling through microaggressions, often without the counselor intending harm. The book explains how microaggressions can show up in language, assumptions, diagnostic framing, and even what the therapist chooses not to ask. Examples include minimizing discrimination, overemphasizing cultural difference in a way that exoticizes the client, or interpreting culturally shaped coping strategies as pathology. These moments matter because they can erode the therapeutic alliance, trigger shame or anger, and confirm a client's expectation that they will not be understood. The text emphasizes that impact outweighs intent, making it essential for clinicians to develop skills in noticing, inviting feedback, and responding non-defensively. Repair is framed as possible when the counselor can acknowledge the misstep, validate the client's experience, and clarify future steps to regain safety. The book also points out that microaggressions can be embedded in policies and clinical routines, such as intake forms, risk assessments, or standardized measures that do not fit diverse experiences. By learning to identify microaggressions, counselors improve not only their interpersonal effectiveness, but also their ethical practice. This topic encourages readers to view mistakes as opportunities for growth while maintaining responsibility for creating a culturally safe therapeutic environment. Fourthly, culturally responsive assessment and intervention planning. The book helps readers translate multicultural principles into the practical tasks of assessment, diagnosis, and treatment planning. It emphasizes that culturally responsive assessment begins with understanding the client's presenting concern in context, family expectations, community norms, experiences of racism or stigma, economic stress, language barriers, and legal or immigration pressures can all shape symptoms and coping. The text encourages clinicians to consider cultural validity when using diagnostic categories and standardized instruments, and to remain alert to the risk of over-pathologizing culturally normative behavior or under-recognizing distress expressed in intervention planning is presented as flexible and collaborative, with attention to adapting communication, pacing, and goals to match the client's values and preferences. The book also promotes integrating culturally congruent supports such as family involvement, community resources, spiritual practices, or culturally meaningful metaphors when appropriate and desired by the client. Another practical point is the importance of discussing expectations about counseling itself, since some clients may anticipate directive guidance, problem-solving, or help with external systems rather than insight-oriented exploration. By combining cultural understanding with clinical rigor, this topic supports better engagement, more accurate conceptualization, and interventions that clients are more likely to trust and sustain. Lastly, social justice, advocacy, and ethical responsibilities beyond individual therapy technique. The book argues that effective counseling with culturally diverse populations often requires attention to social justice and advocacy. Many client concerns are linked to systemic conditions such as discrimination, poverty, barriers to healthcare, school inequities, or workplace bias. The text invites counselors to broaden their role when appropriate, moving from an exclusively intrapsychic focus toward interventions that also address environmental stressors. This can include helping clients navigate institutions, connecting them with community resources, collaborating with families or schools, and supporting empowerment and self-advocacy. The book also highlights ethical responsibilities related to competence, informed consent, and respecting cultural values without excusing harm. It raises the challenge of balancing cultural sensitivity with professional standards, especially when cultural practices intersect with safety, autonomy, or rights. Another important aspect is the counselor's responsibility to examine how agencies and training systems may reproduce inequity, and how supervision and continuing education can support more accountable practice. By framing multicultural counseling as inseparable from ethics and social context, this topic encourages clinicians to think systemically, reduce barriers that keep clients from benefiting from therapy, and align their work with broader goals of equity and human dignity. In conclusion, this book is best suited for counseling and psychology students, practicum trainees, supervisors, and practicing clinicians who want a structured way to strengthen their work with clients from diverse cultural backgrounds. It is also valuable for professionals in social work, school counseling, and community mental health settings where cultural and systemic factors are impossible to separate from clinical concerns. The benefit to a reader's life and practice is practical and immediate. It sharpens self-awareness, improves therapeutic alliance, and provides a clearer method for adapting assessment and interventions without relying on stereotypes. By learning to recognize bias and microaggressions, readers can prevent common ruptures and create safer spaces for clients to disclose experiences of discrimination, identity conflict, or cultural stress. Compared with similar books, its enduring value comes from linking multicultural theory to everyday clinical decisions while keeping power, privilege, and social context in view. Many texts discuss diversity conceptually, but this one is known for making multicultural competence a repeatable clinical discipline that can guide case formulation, communication, and ethical judgment. For readers who want both a conceptual map and actionable direction, it is a worthwhile purchase and a long-term reference. If you would like to support Derald Wing Sue, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.